In this video, I will talk about the futility of killing wild animals in order to reduce suffering on the planet. I think that the killing of sentient beings is a serious violence that can hardly be justified, but in this video, I will talk only about its ineffectiveness as a method to reduce the total number of sentient beings. One might think that killing wild animals would simply reduce their numbers and that it would potentially prevent the creation of more of them also in the future, as the killed animals will not reproduce. Instead, the evidence shows that this is not true under any circumstances. Biology can help us understand why. So let's imagine killing a large number of wild animals without killing all the members of that species in their habitat. Now the position that those animals occupied in the ecological niche is empty, which means that the resources that those animals would have used to satisfy their needs are now available to the other animals. The resources needed to survive longer, which were previously insufficient for everyone's needs, have now increased. Other colonies come from neighboring and distant areas, and in this way we made the resources available to the rest of the animals who will survive longer and will be more prolific. Even if we imagine killing all the wild animals of a species who are on a territory, the result is the same. The animals will occupy the empty position in the ecological niche and will reproduce more, whether they are of other species or the same species coming from far away, which they wouldn't if no animals would be killed in the first place, and that's due to scarcity of resources. In a short time, the eliminated individuals are simply replaced in number. Because of the effects just examined, even the extermination of an entire species leads to the creation of new generations of animals that wouldn't otherwise have existed. The role of wild animals killed in the ecological niche gets occupied by animals of other species. Sometimes the total number of sentient beings becomes even greater if the resources needed for an animal of a species are less than those needed for the animals of the extinct species. However, making species go extinct is normally very difficult, even through a collective human effort. One interesting thing concerns the reproductive capacity of some animals and the linked reactions to such kind of interventions. Research suggests that where hunted, some species take less time to reach sexual maturity. An example of this is the coy also known as nutria, an allochthonous species introduced in Italy due to fur farms. These animals settled mainly in the northern Italian plains and has been accused of damaging cultivations and the banks of artificial canals. So even if this animal was strongly hunted, the population has now decreased. So it has been noted that where hunted, the coy takes about half of the time to reach sexual maturity. Normally, this species takes 10 months to reach sexual maturity, but where hunted, it is reached in 4 or 6 months. So researchers have come to the conclusion that the total eradication of these species is virtually impossible. Another species that when hunted has been seen to undergo changes in sexual maturity is Coyotes. Evidence shows that when controlled through lethal methods, Coyotes can increase their reproductive rate and can reproduce earlier at an earlier age and have a larger litter with a higher survival rate among juveniles. Some of the examples of the futility of lethal methods with the aim to reduce the animal population concern deer and rats. After the hunting season, the decline in deer population leads to less competition among survivors, and that results in increased birth rates. About rats, in 2017, the first attempt was made with the use of a sterilizing substance dissolved in water, which is harmless to the animal's health. This substance, mostly known as ContraPest, and it works as a safe and easy way to sterilize small mammals and to control rat population in cities. So fertility control interventions performed this way, it has been tried in New York and some other areas, have shown that it is more effective than rat poison in reducing rat population. Again, the problem with killing rats is that others simply come in and take their place. Fertility control, on the other hand, maintains a small population of existing rats who protect their territory from newcomers. Sterilizing animals is a much more effective intervention than any lethal ones because the animals continue to occupy their position in the ecological niche, uh, which means that they continue to inhabit spaces, they continue to feed on the available food, to form groups, and to mate without reproducing, avoiding to increase availability of resources and to favor the reproduction of other individuals as a consequence. I will leave a few links that deal with the examples that I made in the description box. It is true that human civilization is exterminating many animals, and in this way it is probably reducing their number, but this doesn't mean that if we choose to kill animals, we will reduce their number, because by doing that, even through a great habitat destruction, we are not simply adding to civilization damage. Killing animals and even destroying habitats is an action subjected to the ecological mechanisms described so far. Civilization actually reduces the number of sentient beings because it doesn't only kill and destroy habitats, but it prevents those habitats from reforming. Civilization causes very extensive and continuous damage. It changes the environment in a progressive and permanent way. It doesn't kill just some wild animals, but it kills billions of them everywhere and continuously. And it doesn't only modify some environment and then it leaves it like it is, but it changes permanently. And in this way, civilization destroys entire habitats of many species and leads those species to go extinct without leaving unused resources as empty spaces in the ecological niche. And that's the crucial point. Of course, this also applies to insects and small animals in the city or in the countryside, as they also follow the same ecological dynamics. Regarding massive killing of animals through habitat destruction, for example, through forest fires, although in the first period the animal population of the affected area decreases, in the long run, which may change from a few years to the following season, the number of animals increases rapidly due to a greater availability of substances from the organic matter necessary for microbial and plant life, and it attracts animals from distant areas, and then it produces the same effect on animal life. Making a territory sterile in the long term is almost impossible. Life is able to spread everywhere on the planet and even on Lost Island in the middle of the ocean. And that's due to the omnipresence of microbial life and the inevitable migration of animal and plant species. If interventions are not constant, followed by continuous maintenance, the reduction of sentient beings can only take place for a very limited amount of time, without leading to the reduction in the total number of animals that will be created. Interventions can be made to exterminate life and prevent its reappearance only for a certain amount of time, but given the continuous natural geological transformations, it is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to modify an environment in such a profound way to make it permanently sterile. It is correct to point out that the dynamics of life on the planet are so varied and complex that the that exceptions are allowed. There may be cases where the killing of animals actually leads to a reduction in the total number of sentient beings, but these are exceptional cases. Moreover, it is virtually impossible to predict the actual reduction in the number of sentient beings in the long run through lethal intervention. Finally, killing wild animals, be they insects, small city animals, or larger ones in the wild, is by no means a sensible choice. Apart from being pointless, as it doesn't work to reduce suffering, it can have a number of negative, if not worse, consequences. The only thing that you get is that you have brutally killed sentient beings, probably only after terrorizing them and after inflicting enormous physical suffering um, during the execution, um, also with the possibility of causing suffering to other animals as well.